Yes, hello, hello. All right, testing. Okay, I think this is working. I'm staying home today. Normally I feel like it's some kind of duty that I have to go out into the world and find something, find things, look for things, discover things, revisit things, places. That's what I do with my days off, as I walk. I've been thinking about returning to that lifestyle. I spent 20 years walking. 20 years just what came to be known as the Flâneur lifestyle. I knew I was wasting my time, but that never stopped me. I mean, I know I'm wasting my time now when I do it, but that doesn't stop me. Nothing will ever stop me from wasting time. So I'm in my apartment today, and I've been setting up cameras all over the place. I mean, I've had cameras around for a long time, but I never. I'm just being a little more aggressive about it now. Like I've set one up in my bedroom, and I had one in the bedroom for a long time. I still have many hours of nights spent sleeping alone. I put the cameras away when there was anybody else in the picture, or would have been in the picture. They never even knew about the cameras, because why would they? I do find it somewhat interesting to watch myself sleep. I get over the fascination pretty quickly, but the twitches that I don't remember, or the involuntary movements, are mildly interesting. And right now I'm just moving from one room to the other. On my big TV, I have a 70-something inch TV. I'm playing back the random videos from the lifetime of porn that I downloaded a number of years ago. Lifetime supply, or so it seemed to me at the time. And it's mostly pretty bad. It's this grainy shit from like the early 2000s. All amateur. And it doesn't translate to the big screen very well. But there are just days where I like to have like a thought balloon of sorts, as if to have a visual realization, a visualization of the fact that there's always some kind of pornography going on in my head. The pornographic default, I call it. I'm not a pornographer, although I've dabbled with that a little bit. Don't bother looking for it. You'd never be able to find me. I didn't last long in that realm. I just quickly saw what a waste of time it was. But it was fun. I will say that much. Like, there were some interesting connections that I made from the people that found me, but they were very ephemeral connections, never to be resumed, never to be reconnected. My goal today has been to turn my bedroom into a masterpiece. I want to make it the most inviting place in the world. That's pathetic, right? I need to sweep the floor a little bit. So here's the broom. And as I pass from the kitchen into the bedroom, there's a big busted woman in bed with a beefy looking dude. But there's no porn in here. Not at the moment, at least. Is it raining? No, it's just somebody on a bike. It's supposed to rain. That's another reason I didn't want to bother going back out. I did go out. I did my rounds, I guess you'd say. I checked the little free library nearest to here. It had been empty really most of the time I knew of it, but then recently it was stuffed to the gills with interesting stuff. I actually took a couple of books, a couple of poetry anthologies, and I left a couple of payphone radio cards, one of which was not there today, so somebody took one of them, I guess, or else it vaporized. Somebody called my public phone number from a blocked caller ID. It was a woman. She said she just wanted me to know that she likes to hear the sound of my voice, and she checks the app once in a while. So she must be one of the 100 or so people that downloaded the payphone radio app from either the Play Store or the Apple Store. I don't know how many people actually downloaded that, but you wouldn't expect it to be a bestseller or anything. Well, it was free, but I think I do have a way of getting detailed stats, how many people downloaded it and how much listening time and all that, but I don't know. I'm fine not knowing. All right, so now the chunky dude has the big boob girl on her back, and he's going down on her. And she's resting her feet on his back while he does that. All right, so I swept the floor. Now, I found a couple of videotapes on, is this high 8 format? And these must be tapes I made with the old camcorder. I am kind of interested to know what's on them. I know a long time ago, a woman and I taped ourselves having sex. I don't remember if I deleted that or erased it. Or you don't delete videotape. I mean, this is physical videotape. We don't use the word delete, overwrite or erase or destroy. I always make every effort and then some to destroy that kind of shit when things go bad. Because I don't want that shit around any more than anybody else. I'm looking up into my bedroom closet. This is not my closet. This has really never been my apartment. This is Tom's place. Tom's the owner of the building. And I've never felt like I live here. He's just letting me have a roof. But the bedroom closet, has a stack of CDs, both commercial and data CDs that I copied a bunch of junk onto. There's a box that I know is full of pretty good quality prints that I made of some photos a long time ago. I sold a few at at an arts fair once. And then there's a stack of framed prints, which are also pretty good quality. And I sold a few of those as well. Never made my money back, never even came close. And I've never been comfortable with knowing that something of mine is hanging on somebody's wall. There's something wrong about it. Somebody I once sent as a Christmas gift a framed print of a photo that somebody I used to correspond with. She saw it on my website and she commented on it. And so I sent her a pretty good quality framed print. And she, well, I didn't expect this, but she was absolutely like ecstatic. She was like gushing with joy at the receipt of this photo. And she showed me where she hung it on her, I think it was the dining room wall. It just felt I don't know, felt vulgar, felt strange. It felt like an internal organ of mine was being laid out to dry. I remember later I'd read about, I don't remember his name now. Driver? Is that his last name? The actor who refuses to see him, to watch himself on the movie screen or on TV, or even to hear his own voice recorded back. And I started to understand, at least. My bookshelves, I go back to college, and I quit buying physical books. Like a lot of people, I quit buying physical books a long time ago, but so it's hard to say where the printed books ended, but in terms of when did I mean, they're not shelved by the order in which I bought them. But there's this book, Pain and Passion. A psychoanalyst explores the world of S&M. Robert J. Stoller. This is what I spent my money on in the early 90s. And this was an expensive book. Yeah, it was $25 in 1991. Today that would be like $75. And all told, I didn't really get anything out of the book. It seemed very surface. It didn't seem like it didn't seem like it was written by anybody with experience in the field. That was my evaluation a long time ago. I could certainly have misread it in my callow youth. I'm putting a rubber band in the junk drawer in the kitchen. The junk drawer is full of all kinds of shit. Con Edison bills from 10 years ago. There's a pill chopper that I use to, if I can't break a prescription pill in half on my own, I use the pill chopper. And that has had the beneficial effect of extending some of my prescriptions for months, maybe even years. Well, let's see, what else is there? Well, there's plenty else. I cleared most of the living room table. Which had been basically, I haven't actually seen the table in weeks because I just throw all my junk on top of it. I mean, this is a bachelor pad after all. At least it has been for, well, a few years. I did buy a book recently, though, speaking of which. It's a really nice one. It's a slim volume, but called Once Upon a Telephone. And it's like a social history of the telephone in America. And it had a few good pages about payphones, of course. Nothing I don't think I knew already, but the book was like $6, so I grabbed it. I think that's the last print book I got. Before that, it was probably this one, The Crossway by Guy Stagg. This was written by somebody who did the pilgrimage to Jerusalem, even though he's not a religious person. And I heard it on the BBC, and I knew I had to have a copy of it. That guy's a walker, like me. He doesn't walk with any destination in mind, although in this case there was one, but more about the passion. The term Flâneur traditionally implies, or it would seem to describe somebody who has plenty of time, plenty of privilege, and presumably plenty of money that allows them to walk everywhere and anywhere at their leisure, making observations and saying things or noting things. I'm certainly not, I don't fit that profile. I think the term today could be used differently, or it's evolved at least to where it's become like it's a form of expression. Walking is walking, but going out for a walk never used to be a thing until the Victorian era. Nobody did that. Nobody just went out for a walk. If you did, you were probably considered a prowler or a predator or something like that. I think it was like about mid 1700s when it sort of slowly became a thing, slowly became an accepted pastime. Good thing I wasn't born then. Where is the thing that I sweep up all the shit into? Whatever you call it, the sweeper picker upper. I think I accidentally stole this from Tom, the building owner. I thought somebody had left it out as a thing for anybody else to use, as we sometimes do. Maybe if I ever leave this place, and if he doesn't die first, maybe I'll leave it for him. I'll put it where I found it. Something like that happened to me in grade school. There was a math textbook, I think. Could have been science, doesn't really matter. But textbooks are very expensive. And we were not wealthy. And somebody stole probably a $20, $25 textbook. This would have been in the 80s. Keeping up with inflation, that same textbook would probably be like $100 today. Textbooks are the biggest fucking scam. But somebody stole it, never knew who. But whoever that was that stole it was nice enough to return it at the end of the year when we didn't need it anymore and when we had already purchased another one. And it seemed like, we'd been robbed at the time. And I don't know if this perspective was ever brought to bear, but the kid who stole it, probably the family couldn't afford it. I can't imagine that anything could have given them the impression that we could afford it, or that we could afford two of them. But in perspective, if I think about it now, I don't remember if I thought about it this way back then. I can sort of forgive the kid. And I just wonder if his parents knew about it. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe the kid's parents gave him money to buy the book, but he stole mine and kept the money, and who knows what. Into the dustbin of time with that, with ever getting an answer to that question. But speaking of that sort of thing, another similar, in a similar spirit, incident happened more recently when I had a car. That's probably been more years ago than I realized, but after my dad died, I drove his car up here, and I had it for probably a couple of years before selling it to a friend. It was a Lincoln Town car, 1997, I think. It's funny, I'm passing by the big TV now. The big boobed woman has cum all over her face, and she's like laughing and smiling. Yeah, right. The facial is a relatively modern development in porn. It really didn't start happening until the 1970s. The ancients, they did everything we do in terms of sex, but they didn't do that. And nobody did that, unless you're talking about premature ejaculation, which was a shameful thing, or an embarrassing thing at least. But nobody was like deliberately shooting their load onto their partner's face until really not even the 70s. That was when the first porn film with that act was the first. Okay, boop, 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 boop. The battery on the mic that I'm using ran out. I guess I should have anticipated something like that. I used this mic like about a month ago, and I used it for like almost a whole day. So I should have charged it first. I'm not going to continue where I was going with that history lesson on the facial. I think you get the point. I wanted to, but getting back to another incident in the same spirit as the textbook that got stolen and then mysteriously reappeared by someone who, I guess I'll never know who did that. It could only be one of 24 other kids in the room. It was a small class. But let bygones be bygones, and really I don't even care. It's just an interesting memory for me, at least. But in the similar spirit, a number of years ago, I had a car for a couple of years. After my father died, I drove his Lincoln Town car up here. And I never really needed it. So I held on to it for a couple of years. Mostly what I ever used it for was to drive out to the cemetery. And being at the cemetery just was never the same for me, being in a car versus being there in person. That's what the difference felt like. The difference between being there and being in a pod. But I had the car for, like maybe 2.5 years, sold it to a friend. But when I had it, it was a Lincoln Town Car, and the Town Cars have caps on all the tires. I don't know, like they used to call them hubcaps. And when this incident happened, it became new to me that they call them caps now. I guess they call them caps on all cars, or maybe all cars don't even have those anymore. Whatever the case, one of those caps disappeared. So I just figured, well, I must have hit a pothole harder than I realized. I figured I had lost the thing organically. I did drive around some, what I pretty much knew would be a futile attempt to see if I could spot it. I drove around like where I had last driven, and it was hopeless. But I mean, it's not a big deal. As I quickly learned, the caps don't do anything. Losing a cap does nothing to jeopardize the safety of the vehicle and all that. So I was just not going to do anything about it. There's no point in replacing it. You can only buy sets of 4 on eBay or anywhere else. And I also quickly noticed that virtually every town car of that vintage that I saw around town was missing one, if not all, of those caps. It was very rare to find a Lincoln Town Car that had all of them. So I just let it go, and then 6 months later, as if by magic, it reappeared. It was back on my tire, back on the wheel. And I have no idea what happened. Whoever stole it had a change of heart. Maybe they just needed to borrow it for 5 or 6 months. If a kid did it, maybe their mother found out about it and ordered him to replace it or return it. I don't know. Strange incident, though. When I don't remember when exactly this was, but the car was involved in an accident where it was parked curbside, and a Toyota Camry, its axle split and lost control and slammed into the side of my car, and then it spun around and really slammed the fuck out of another car a couple of parking spots up ahead of me. I got off easy with this. It was just the driver's side rearview mirror got knocked off. The other car was really messed up. But as I went out to just assess the damage, and all these kids would stop and ask me what happened. And I told them whatever I told them, I don't know. But it turned out all these kids knew all the cars. They had a sort of a mental dossier on every car that's parked on this street and probably every street. And maybe these, I don't know if these are bad kids or kids that are looking, waiting to hear about an easy way to break into a certain type of vehicle, so they memorize every type of vehicle that is in their area. I don't know. So I'll never know who stole that cap or who brought it back, but that is certainly one of the strangest things that happened with me owning a vehicle. All right, so now I'm looking at the big TV with the playing back from my lifetime supply of porn, and we've got 2 people really just going at it on the bank of a river. There's like a pretty strong flowing river. Behind them, and there's also a bridge overhead. So this looks like they're in a park or something. So, and they're just totally hammering, like, or he's hammering her like there's nobody watching. Wonder how they arranged that. It's like he somebody paid off the park ranger here. Anyway, so let me go back over here. While I was recharging the microphone, I dug up the old camcorder that I used to make these high 8 tapes that I've been finding in the drawer. And it looks like I can actually use this thing to play back the tapes, but I'm going to have to find a way. I guess what I'll have to find is a old video output to USB 3. But there's a tape in here, and I don't know what's on it. So let's see. I read the instructions for how to play back. Put it on VTR. And I already put the cassette in, so I have to hit the play button. Oh my. Zooming in. I'm zooming in, baby. Oh, wow, I didn't expect that. Maybe I'll watch this later. That was my beautiful ex. Sitting on my couch. Smiling beautifully, and I was zooming in on her. I do remember that day. And she was acting like she didn't want me making video of her, so I didn't continue. Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes I wallow in self-pity when I talk about her. And I'll say that I regretted that I never tried harder, that I could have tried harder to keep her. You know, I could have made it. I just could have tried harder. But the reality is there's no way I could have tried hard enough. I don't think any amount of going the distance would have mattered, because what can you say? Came down to culture and race. And race, I'm not the first to say this, I don't think, but race is one powerful motherfucker. All right, so here I am in the far corner of the bedroom, standing near the new camera that is going to be documenting my every sleeping moment. I put a fat video card in it, 256 gig. That ought to be able to record a month. Maybe, well, I'll have to figure that out. Figure out how much that's good for, but what I want to make this bedroom perfect. And that means I want to be able to, this is a strange ambition to have, but I want to be able to check in on it every day from wherever I am, just to make sure that my bed is waiting for me, I guess. And I want it to look perfect. It's looking a little ramshackle, because as I said, this is still a bachelor pad, isn't it? At least for the last few years. But I want it to look perfect. There are there's just a few things I have to get rid of that it's going to be difficult for me to arrange. I just keep putting it off, partly just out of laziness, but I have an old microwave that blew up. It's way too heavy for me to get downstairs. That one I can at least throw out curbside, but I have an old freezer that blew up. And I can also get rid of that curbside, but you have to make an appointment, and that's nothing wrong with that. But that again, that thing is just way too heavy for me to get downstairs. And I don't really want to enlist the help of friends because I'd hate to be, I'd hate for anything bad to happen as we're getting a big heavy object down the stairs. So I looked into hiring people to do it, and it's not cheap. It's not as cheap as I would have hoped. I'm going to start watching this video again. Let's see if how much of her is really even in this. Because the way she was acting, I probably turned the recorder off. I'll zoom in on the neighbors. Yeah. I think that was a car trying to start. I don't think that was a bird. It did sound like a bird. Got too much stuff in here. Zoom in. Oh, that's so sweet. She was very sweet, but very sour too. I zoomed in again on her face, and she like covered her face with her hand and waved me away and smiled, and she was really cute. So now the video switches to a blizzard. I remember doing this sort of thing. I would record the blizzard snow blowing past the street lamp outside, the street light. Yeah, this was blizzard night, and now here's a delivery guy on a bike. That poor guy. Hope he got tipped well, but his bike got totally stuck in the snow. Food delivery guy. Well, I'm not going to continue to narrate this video, but it's kind of amazing that this old thing still works. This is an old Sony camcorder, handy cam, I guess it's called. What I guess I need to figure out if I really want to do this is how am I going to plug this into my PC? The obvious approach will be to find a USB 3 converter, I guess. I don't know. Looks like I have at least 5 tapes, and I have no idea what's on most of them. I do have a few foggy memories of taking it into Midtown. I guess that'll be my next project. In the meantime, the porn channel on my big TV has switched over to a dude giving a woman a foot massage in looks like a motel room. I'm going to look out the window here. There's still no rain. It was supposed to be raining at some point. That's funny. I'm looking out the window at the exact same view that I had just captured on that old handy cam recorder. I've lived here way too long. All right. I'm going to stop recording for a bit. Okay, so it's a little later. Um, so I watched a couple of other videos. It goes back farther than I remembered. It goes back to maybe 95 or 96 when I was living on Upper East Side. I have very fragmented memories of that apartment, so it'll be interesting to see it again. I ordered a converter thing for $30, but with my reward points, I got it for half that, and it should arrive tomorrow. Funny thing about that apartment was recently I just typed in the address. I guess I was just doing random web searches to see what's out there, or to see what you can find. The apartment was listed for sale, or listed for rent rather. Small place, about the size of my living room, but somehow it worked. It was laid out nicely, and I have often regretted giving up the place. But truth be told, I would have outgrown it eventually, but I could have gotten another place in that same building because they liked me there. But I went down to Atlanta to work for the mighty CNN, and I guess that worked out for the best. But never did get an apartment back in that building. By the time I got back from Atlanta, it was about impossible to get anything in Manhattan on my budget. Or maybe I was just making excuses. I don't know. Oh, but what happened recently was I typed in that address, and up came a listing for it. And there they were, just like all these high quality photos of the apartment that I used to live in. Clearly it had been renovated, but it really didn't look a whole lot different from when I was there, or at least as I could remember it. I don't have a lot of photos of the place, but now that I found I have some video of it, that's going to be eye-opening. I'm actually kind of afraid. I have a foggy memory of somebody that I made video of in that apartment that I don't know if I'm ready to revisit, but we'll just see what happens. I'm not going to watch it now on the little screen on the camcorder, because for all I know, this old thing has a limited lifespan. So I'm going to put the camcorder back in the bag for now and get ready to start digitizing tomorrow, I guess, assuming I get the little converter thingy. What else is in this bag? Here's some phone numbers. Don't know what that's about. Bloomingdale's receipt. Oh, and it's a quarter. Look at that. I'm rich. I'd go make a payphone call, but you can't do that anymore. At least not for a quarter. But yeah, I found a stack of maybe 5 or 6 other of these videotapes, and I'm going to continue my digital accumulation. I don't really think of it as hoarding, but I do know how to accumulate digital content in ways that would have been considered almost unthinkable 2 decades ago. I remember I was at a conference in Las Vegas, one of those really wanky publishers conferences that early internet people got sent to. There was a guy on stage talking about how he couldn't even comprehend the enormity of a gigabyte of text. He sat there chewing on that concept for several minutes. He just kept saying, can you imagine a gigabyte of text? I mean, I know what he meant. It's like, it's comes back in perspective. Like that wanky comment Bill Gates allegedly made about 256K ought to be enough for just about anybody. Well, you know, he was probably right when he said it. And this dude on stage was funny. I mean, even then, I thought he was digging deep to make a profound point, a profound observation about the state of our transition from print to digital. It was one of those publishers' conferences that had previously been dominated by old media, as it came to be known. I'm putting my pants back in the closet now. It was one of those conferences that was previously dominated by what came to be known as old media. And everybody was kind of starting, you know, there were some doubters about the internet, of course. I remember when I took my job on the internet, everybody thought I was nuts. They really did. They expected me to be coming back groveling for my job within months. I'll tell you what, though. I mean, it seems like there's always something like this coming around the bend. Now it's AI, artificial intelligence. And I've messed around with a few things. I don't really know anybody in my immediate world that's doing anything with it. I knew one person about a year ago who tried out some of the image generation things, but she thought it was wanky, and at the time it was. It's come a long way since then. But with the internet, I remember people thinking along the lines that if you go get a job on the internet, you're going to be out of work in 3 months. Now, that's pretty much my assessment of AI. If you're going to go run away and join an AI startup, you're probably not going to be working in 3 months, or at least not for this. It's just not. It's not ready yet. It's not the kind of thing where there's going to be AI companies. It's solutions and tools, and I'm starting to sound like a wanker, but solutions and tools for individual circumstances. I use it at my job once in a while, but not in any meaningful way. I just sort of mess around with it to see if it could do in real time what we're already doing. And for the most part, I'd give it a C-. A couple of things it gets right, but most things it either gets completely wrong or just wrong enough that you can't trust it. You know, it sounds right, but when you really put the bullshit detector on it, you find yourself telling it, well, no, that's not true. And then it's like, yes, I'm sorry, I'm under development. Blah, 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 blah. So I shopped around a bit, and I think I got the best looking deal on a USB converter thingy. It should just plug right into the old camcorder, and magic will happen. I am a little nervous about what I might have forgotten I ever set to film. But I guess I'll be I guess I'll be straightening that out or discovering that over the next couple of weeks or however long this is going to take.